Good day. So this is the continuation on the chapter 14 report on the organizational development. So this is the last part, which is the work schedules and prepared by yours truly. And now I have listed here the topic outline so you will have an idea on what is going on. So the main point is work schedules, which will have different types, which are compressed work weeks, moonlighting, flexible work hours, peak time pay, job sharing, work from home, and shift work. Now, I also prepared here the intended learning outcomes or in a form of guide questions. So why is this like that? Because these four questions are important to guide you to see what are the main points of this discussion. And also, please take note of those four questions because after this discussion, I will be calling random names to answer those questions so that I could assess if my reporting is efficient and also to assess if you have learned something from this report. So, these questions you can write it on a piece of paper so you will have the guide. And also, before I start the discussion, I am advising you to open your PDFs on the account of Aamondt on the Industrial and Organizational Psychology so you would have an idea kung saan na tayo on this discussion. Or you can see my written report that I've already sent you sa group chats para ma-aware kayo where part are we now on the discussion. Now, on the first question, what has been the importance of work scheduling? And second, what are the different types of work schedules? And third, what are the pros and cons of each? And lastly, what type of work schedule is best to be applied? Now, let's proceed to the main topic. So actually the main topic is work schedule. So maybe you're asking, why is the work schedule very important, especially on organizational development? Alright, so this is the answer. In a company or in a business, we have our manpower, of course, to make it productive, right? So the manpower are the employees. Now, if the employees are not satisfied to the administration of the company or the business holder, then there will be less production and malulugi, mababankrupt yung company. And that's why there is a need to organize the work schedules because you have to take note these two reasons. First is to avoid employee dissatisfaction and second is to avoid the employee absenteeism. Now, to further understand this, we have to go back to the history of the usages of work scheduling. Now, on the late 18th century, actually work time is about 14 to 16 hours a day for 6 days a week. Why? Because there was no machineries and technology there. So you have to work on the manpower. So you have to maximize the time, right? So there was people na nag-alma during that day because it's very hard. Especially, tingnan mo, it's 14 to 16 hours. And it's for 6 days in a week. So that's why there was a modification during the mid-19th century where the time has been reduced into a maximum of 10 hours a day only. Now, looking at these patterns, you can conclude that work schedules are adaptive in accordance to the evolution of company and its employees and also the needs of the company. Kunyari, today there is an emergence of the machineries and the additional technologies from different countries. So the work schedules has been lessened. So parang nagiging magaan and there has been more production of it. Alright, so work schedules actually are divided into different types. So first on the list, because it was the first one to be practiced during the past eras. So the first is the compressed work weeks. So as you can see on the written report, I have highlighted it as the similar to quota system. Why? Because let's say you have a time quota. It's not an idea of like you have to work on the work weeks, say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and that is the work weeks, of course, basically. So those you have to work for 5 days, or let's say up until Saturday, so you have to work 6 days. So it's not like that. It's not about the day, but it's about the hour you are to spend your work or your job on a company. So with this, let's say 36 hours ang quota. You have to work on a week for 36 hours. So there are lots of companies who have decided to maintain the 6 days. Di pa rin. 6 days pa rin siya. However, what they did was lessen the work hours for every day. So instead of you have to work for like 8 or kanina nga you have to work for 10 hours a day. So it's not like that anymore. It's about 6 hours of work on a daily basis for 6 days. So 6 days times 6 hours is still 36 hours of work. So na-reach mo pa rin, na-hit mo pa rin yung quota na time for that week. So other companies, especially of now, they have practiced the use of lesser days. So kunyari, we are talking about lesser days. Kunyari, let's say 3 days na lang ang work mo. However, since you have to hit the 36 hours of week or work, so you have to go with 12 hours a day. So mag-work ka, let's say, meron siyang overtime or whatsoever. So 12 hours, you have to work that for every day. So 12 hours, how many 12 hours do we need? Basic math, how many 12 hours para makabuo tayo ng 36 hours? Alright, right. We only need 3 days. So 3 days lang yung work and 3 days of times 12 hours is 36 hours pa rin. So that is compressed work weeks. It's about the time or the work hours. Now, the advantage of this or the potential advantage of compressed work weeks actually are obvious from the employees' perspectives because they are able to maximize their self-interest in a way that they could have more vacation, and this, especially that Filipinos are very family-oriented, they will have more time to deal with their family, they will have more time to deal with or to have bonding with them that will make them more satisfied and more motivated upon doing the work. And also, this has given an opportunity for those people who are having low incomes or low salaries from their companies to do moonlighting. So what is moonlighting? I will be explaining that to you later. Alright, so going back. Since it has been said that the potential advantage of this is on the side of employees, so there was a rise of a question. So the rise of a question is, what is the effect of this setup, the compressed work weeks, on the employees' performance at work? So that has been the question. So many allegation has arisen, and the very famous is that the worker will be more tired since yun na nga is 12 hours for a day and will cause more mistakes eventually dahil nga pagod na sila, and also they could cause in an extent magkakaroon ng disgrasya or the accidents, especially when driving because they're tired of, especially when going home and an early morning. But then in the research, it has been said here that they do not support the speculation. Why? Because although the result of the research has been or has presented an indication of the workers that are feeling moderately more fatigued, however, their work behaviors and work attitude generally improved once a compressed weekly work schedule has been adopted. So anyway, this is actually used on the 2008. So it was actually it was formally used on the 1940 and then was published on a book by Rivapour during 1970s. And as I said, it was used maximized in the year 2008, going back to the research of SHRM or the Society for Human Resource Management, which have listed that 37% of the overall population of the companies have used this type of work scheduling. So you can see there a table on the PDF of the account of Aamondt, and to give a justification to that, or to give a meaning to that, or to define that, it is saying there that a small increase in productivity has arisen, and a large increase in job satisfaction, and a moderate increase in fatigue. Furthermore, on the basis of data from 3,800 employees in 6 studies on the account of Morse on the year 1990 concluded that almost 90% of employees who worked compressed schedules were satisfied with them. That's what I'm saying a while ago. And also, a word of caution has been made regarding the length of shift. Though the employees seem to suffer few problems with 12-hour shift, there is a probability that upper limit in shift length, for example, Not Keller Schindel and Totterdell on their account on the 1975 or 1995 rather, found that a 14-hour shift for firefighters to be too long. Alright, so the next is moonlighting. So you can see there on the given written report, I have highlighted that moonlighting is defined as working two jobs on a daily basis. And it has been said a while ago, I have mentioned it a while ago. So there are lots of people who will have a chance to moonlight. So yun na nga, as I was saying, this is to improve or to have an extra income for the family or for the person, for the employee. So kailangan niyang mag-work, kunyari, morning lang yung work niya. And kaya niya pang mag-work for the afternoon. She still has an energy. Let's say it's Magdalena. Alright, so Magdalena is working as a waitress every morning. Now, since the task is just up to lunch, after the lunch, or let's say 2 p.m., magko-close na sila. So, she still has the time and she still has the energy. That's why on the afternoon, she transformed into a guest relations officer. So that is what you call moonlighting. And actually, the terms of health is very arguable in this thing. But then it has been justified or combated by the account of Jamal and Crawford on the years 1981 and 1984 said that there is actually no significant differences in workplace quality with moonlighters and non-moonlighters. Only that moonlighters missed about a day more of work per year. So yun na nga, there are many speculations kasi na when you do the moonlighting, of course, pagod ka na because pagod ka na nga sa morning, pagod ka pa sa afternoon. So you have to do that for every day. It's very tiring, diba? But then, it's actually a misconception because there are lots of people who have decided to do that. Why? Because they have a stronger immune system. They can endure the tiredness and, they can sustain the work, and especially they are driven by the fact that they wanna go more, they want to update or upgrade, and there are some are very ambitious that they want to have extra income, which is actually good. They are driven by their ambition. Anyway, when you're trying to research this moonlighting, it is very illegal in the US. Why? Kasi nga it's not prohibited na kasi nga due to these speculations, the fact na hindi siya maganda, it's not healthy, especially that it could cause accidents sa US. However, in the Philippines, it is very okay to do the part-time jobs, right? To do the moonlighting. Kasi nga, yun nga, people in the Philippines are really aspiring to earn more extra income. Kasi this is necessary. Alright. So that's for moonlighting. So next on the list is flexible work hours. So actually, flexible work hours are using three different types of setups. First is the flexi time, second is the gliding time, and third is the flexi tour or the modified flexi tour depending upon the company. And actually, going back to the history of this, it was actually used originally in the West Germany. Alright, you can see there, it's West Germany, and its reason is to control the traffic by controlling the work time. How is this? Because yun nga, you will have an idea since the name is flexi time. So flexible working time, so you do not have to meet the rush hour. Alright, you have an idea. So it's practiced in the West Germany, and then eventually the Swarts of Academe tried to make a research about it. So it's really good. They have found out that it's really good, especially for companies and for employees. Now it has spread all over the world, all over different companies, multinational companies or just local companies. All right, local businesses, they are using it because this is very good. So I have to give the emphasis on the flexi time other than gliding time and flexi tour. Why? Because flexi time actually is widely used here in the Philippines, in the companies here in the Philippines. Bakit? Because flexi time are composed of three different parts: the bandwidth, the core hours, and flexible hours. So I'll be telling you that just later. But then I have to first introduce to you that a flexi time is a system of working a set of number of hours within a starting and finishing time chosen within agreed limits by employees. So yun na nga, we're talking about the employees na naman. So it is pabor with the employees, as you can see in the written report, yan sa may naka-bold na phrase there. So yun na nga. And it's actually an arrangement between the employees and employers, depending on the company, right? So yun na nga, as I was saying a while ago, the three components of flexi time are the bandwidth, core hours, and flexible hours. So let's say, suppose that the work schedule or the work time for every day is, let's say, 8 hours. So please list that on your note, 8 hours. Alright, so what is bandwidth? Bandwidth is the time limit when to start and when to end a work schedule. So you have to work for 8 hours on a day. But you can start with from 6 a.m. and you can end it into 10 in the evening. Alright, if you're going to compute from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., it's actually more than just 8 hours, right? So yun na nga, that's why it's flexi time, because you can work your 8 hours depending on what time you want. Basta, you just have to be just in between these 2 hours, the 6 a.m. and the 10 p.m. You cannot go beyond because it is not included on the bandwidth. Alright. So, okay lang siya, diba? It's very good kasi you will have your time, kailangan mong pipiliin. So actually, I can start, matutulog ako ng morning and I will just go there by 2 p.m. and end it with 10 p.m., right? It's still 8 hours, okay. But you cannot do that actually. Why? Because there is a presence of core hours. What is core hours? It is actually the time where the work is busiest, hence is the time where the work is necessarily to get covered by the employees. So this is the peak time. Okay, let's say fast food chain, McDonald's. So ang peak time ng McDonald's, let's just say hypothetically, is 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Why? Kasi lunchtime kasi yan. So your work now is 8 hours within a bandwidth of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. But you have to cover the core hours, which is 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. rather, up to 1 p.m. So yung kanina, hindi yun pwede na I will start by 2 p.m. Bakit? Hindi ko na na-cover kasi yung core hours. So my only choice is any of the following na mapapasok ko yung core hours. So let's say I can start with 6 a.m. and end it with 1 p.m. Alright, that's 8 hours. And I will still have the time to moonlight from 2 p.m. up to 10 p.m. Alright, meron pa akong time niyan. Makakapag-moonlight pa ako niyan. So, okay lang din yon because na-hit mo yung core hours. Or even you can start from 10 a.m. up to plus 8 hours. Or you can start by 11 a.m. up to plus 8 hours. Kasi napapasok pa rin naman yung sa bandwidth mo and you are covering the core hours. Gets? So the last part or last component of flexi time is the flexible hours. So flexible hours is basically the remaining time of the bandwidth. So yun yung sinabi ko kanina. When you start with 6 a.m. up to 10 or 1 p.m. rather, covering the 8 hour of work, covering the core hours, and also you have the rest of 2 p.m. up until 10 p.m. or so on and so forth. You still have, that is what you call the flexible hours. So, yun na nga, you can still moonlight pa rin naman. So, yun na nga, naintindihan nyo na the process of flexi time. Now, let's go to the gliding time. So, similar to flexi time, it is also free work time system, but with no core hours. So, yun yung pinagkaiba. That's why it is called gliding time and not a flexible time, not a flexi time. Kasi it's just like you're gliding on a company and then aalis ka. Because you don't have your core hours. So, yun na nga, pwede akong makapag-start ng 2 p.m. up to 10 p.m. So, it's just like, I am doing my business here and then I'll just glide into the office. I just have to do things and nothing is really important kasi wala naman siyang core hours. So after that, I can glide, I can go home and do my thing, do my self-interest like that. Very, very easy. Now, the last part is the flexi tour or the modified flexi tour. So, on this system, the employee must submit a schedule on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis depending on the organization. So actually, ito yung matindi. Kasi the flexi time and the gliding time is only about an hour per day. Kunyari nga, diba, the bandwidth is 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Now, on the flexi tour, mas ano na siya, we're not talking about the hours only. We're not talking about it anymore. We're talking about the days, the weeks, or the bi-weeks in a month. Kunyari, I just have to work for 2 weeks in a month. So, pipili ako ng what week. So, same pattern, pero magkaiba lang ng mas mahaba lang kasi ito. So, I can start from first week and second week, or I can start from second week to third week, or third week to fourth week, like that. So, that's the difference between the flexi tour and flexi time and gliding time. So actually, the flexible working schedules, in general na ito ha, so the flexible working schedules are popular with the employees and beneficial to organizations. So many employees opt to start work earlier in the day and come home earlier so that they can beat traffic and spend more time with their children. So that's why, that's the main point here. They can beat the traffic that is presented by rush hour. Also, there was a study on the account of Estes on her study on 1990 and Baltes et al. On 1999 found that flexi time results in a less absenteeism, less overtime, higher job satisfaction, and less role conflict, and increased productivity. So yun na nga, Estes also quoted on the 1990 article that these effects were strongest for smaller organizations and for those organizations in which employees share limited physical resources such as space and equipment. All right. So next is we have to move on the peak time pay. So peak time pay, as you can see there in the written report, it has been highlighted that employees only work for a specific time period, or we call it part-time, diba? But actually the term is peak time, but we used to know this and identify this as part-time. But is paid higher than the regular employees. How is that? Kasi kung ikaw nagpa-part-time ka, you are not the regular employee of that certain company. So since ikaw hindi ka regular employee and kailangan ka lang during the busiest time, tatawagin ka lang pag kailangan ka. So during the busiest time, tatawagin ka, and that is very busy. So that's why kailangan iangat yung salary per ora. However, mas mababa pa rin yung makukuha mo per day kasi nga limited hours ka lang na magtatrabaho. So this idea actually originated from banking and fast food industries where there are only 4 hours of peak time. So yun na nga, let's go back to the McDonald's event kanina. So ang sabi ko kanina is flexi time. Alright. So ngayon naman, the issue here is, kunyari ang McDonald's nga is merong core time or core hour or the peak time na lunch pa rin, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Now, on the rest of the hours, the working hours, is kaya ng dalawang employees. So, ang ginawa ng McDonald's is instead of hiring 20 katao to work regularly from 6 a.m. up until the 8 hours of work, hindi nila ginawa yun. What they did was to just call the other employees during the peak time, which is the busiest na hindi kaya nung dalawang employees na regular, which is 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Gets nyo? So, ang rationale behind it actually is that instead of kukuha ka ng 20 na magiging regular, natetenga lang naman because kaya naman actually ng dalawang worker for that whole day, why not just kunin mo lang yung dalawang worker and then hihingi ka lang ng tulong with the other employees during the peak time. Alright, diba? So, nakales ka na nga, as a company, nakales ka na nga ng sasahuran mo. At the same time, the employees will have more time to do other part-time jobs or to moonlight. So again, there you can see there on the video that the example. Okay, I'll be reading it to you para baka Mas mag-guess nyo pag dyan. So, McDonald's has a 5 working employees, regular employees, on the whole day. But during the peak time or the dinner, so set aside nyo yung kanina because this is different naman. Hypothetically din siya. They add 15 more part-time to work. Thus, an employee will make more per hour than her full-time counterpart, although he will make less money per day. So, yan yung sinasabi ko kanina. So, I think peak time pay is very easy to comprehend kasi very madali lang naman kasi siya, and especially that we are used to it because some of us, especially ngayon student tayo and pandemic, there are some of us who are actually working and who are actually in a fast food chain. Jollibee, I know someone who's working on that. Alright, so this is job sharing and it's actually offered by 19% of organizations according to the study of Burke on 2005, and it involves two employees who share their work hours. So let's say rather than one person working for 40 hours each week, 40 employees combined their hours so that they have a total of 40 hours. So it's actually similar to part-timing, however it differs in a sense that part-timing are usually done or implemented in retail stores or fast food chains or restaurants. Kasi nga ganyan. While the job sharing actually are for bigger professions. So we do not want to label it naman, di ba? We do not want to label things. However, the job sharing is especially very common to teaching professions. Later, I will give you an example of that one. Anyway, there are differences also with part-timing and job sharing. However, the idea is quite similar. So, in a sense na, on the work outcome, the part-timing or part-time means that performance of one employee rarely affects the performance of another. Kasi nga, magkaibang employee kayo. While on the job sharing means the work may be quality or the work may be done by two different employees who share one job title and one position. So, poor quality of work may or by one employee must be corrected by the other. Thus, teamwork is essential in job sharing. So, kunyari, let's give it an example. Meron nakalagay dito. One such example recently occurred during the high school teaching position. The wife teaches 3 classes or morning classes while her husband takes care of the 2 children. While in the afternoon, the husband actually teaches 3 additional classes while his wife cares for the children. So it's like vice versa. In Filipino term is salitan. All right. So the idea here is you share one job title. Kunyari, kayo nag-usap kayo. This is kunyari lang ha, it's hypothetical. It's not usually applicable in the families, however, it is very common. So let's say kayong mag-asawa na you are teaching, kagaya ng nasabi dito sa example, you are both teaching pero hindi nyo kayang pagsabayin yung inyong family and your teaching. So ang ginawa nyo lang is you combined your work and have only one salary kasi nga you are sharing on one position and you are sharing one job. So ang nangyayari lang dito is parang substitution lang yung nangyayari. Kasi nag-job sharing kayo. While on the part-timing, hindi siya substitution kasi nandoon yung isang employee and then pupunta lang yung isang employee pag kailangan na siya during the peak time. Pero magkaiba pa rin sila ng salary. So that's the difference. Gets? Okay, so let's move. Next is work at home. So actually work at home is very very familiar to us, especially ngayong pandemic. So what is work at home? Actually, many of homeworks are completed with little or no contact with the central office or factory, just like call center agencies right now, di ba? Meron silang work at home. So, minsan, the higher ranks, you know, tinitingnan sila based on their performance sa kanilang work at home while listening to the call. Alright, so it's quite different. It's either little or no contact with the central office or the factory. Or yung, yun nga, central office. Now, the work at home is already actually it's already common setup from before when women used to sew dress and sell them at home. Only that work at home has given more attention for today due to the threat of pandemic. Kaya ngayon yung sinasabi ko sa inyo. So with telecommuting, however, an employee uses a computer to electronically interact with the central office. The other terms commonly used to telecommuting is the telework and one is the mobile working. So actually, it appeared to researchers that this type of setup promotes less work-family conflict kasi nga nasa bahay ka lang. Better relationship with their supervisor kasi hindi ka nape-pressure. Kasi there are times na the ambiance of the office or the workplace is more pressuring kesa nung sa bahay ka lang. It's more intimidating. That's why you cannot work well, you cannot be that productive na compared sa nasa bahay ka lang. So next is higher job satisfaction. Yun nga, nabanggit ko rin. It's very connected. And less role stress and lower inattention to turnover and higher performance level than the non-telecommuting colleagues, according to the study of Gajenran and Harrison of 2007. So yun nga, alam nyo nga, nakikita nyo sa mga online workers, online employers, or online sellers rather, 'di ba? Ginagamit nila itong work at home to get more income and nasa bahay lang sila. Yung wala kang capital or wala kang binabayarang rental because you are on the internet, right? You are on the online. So yun lang yung ginagawa mo. Yung puhunan mo lang is just your voice and your binibenta and of course your gadget na gagamitin mo. So that's it. Actually, it's actually advantageous to employer and employee, especially with the unwanted costs. Like, yun nga yung sabi ko, commuting fee din is syempre nakaka-add din yun. Kasi you have to budget, especially kung malayo yung bahay mo with your workplace. And then, yun nga, work time with family and your friends, alright? Your personal interests. So that's it. Alright, so the last part is shift work. So due to the economic and safety factors, shift work has been implemented. And it includes working evening or the swing shift and late night or overnight, which is called the graveyard shifts. So actually, this type of work schedule, the shift work, is very familiar to all of us when we hear the word call center agency. However, more than that one, there are also different professions that go with shift work. So in the hospitals, for example, the nurses does the thing, they have to lend their service for 24/7. So therefore, hindi sila maka-work ng from morning to the graveyard shift. Otherwise, they will be dead. Alright? And also to the uniform personnel for our safety, the policemen and the firemen, they have to lend their services for 24/7, and so there is the existence of shift works in them. Kasi similar with the idea of the nursing, hindi rin sila magtatagal in this world kung wala silang shift work at they will be working by morning up to the graveyard, right? Anyway, this shift work or this work schedule has a list of negative effects excuse me, according to the study of Vidacek et al. On the year 1995. It actually showed on that study that working evening and late night shifts disrupts the pattern and often cause digestive, appetite, sleeping problems. So unfortunately, we don't get used to shift works and these effects get worse when continued exposure to night shifts. And this actually is known to be the effect that is worsening the disruption of the circadian rhythm. So what is circadian rhythm? Just a brief review. So circadian rhythm, for example, is yung body clock, right? When you can wake up in the morning at the same time to the yesterday na wala ka namang alarm clock. So that's it. And it has been supported on the study of Garbarino in 2014 that found that an Italian police work shift had more sleep disorders than non-shift workers and that the greater the number of years spent working shifts, the worse the sleep disorder occurs. Alright, so there are actually different, there are different factors that affects the shift work. Kunyari, the first one is the uniqueness of the shift. So it has been said here that the social effects of shift work can be greatly reduced if other organizations in the geographical area also use the shifts. So the higher the percentage of organizations with shifts, the greater the number of stores and restaurants that are open during the evening, and the greater the number of other people available with whom to socialize. Because socialization is very important, right? So one of the example of uniqueness of shifts on this thing is the existence of 7-Eleven, the convenience stores, right? And ito ay nasa tabi mismo if you're going to observe nasa tabi lahat ng gasoline station. Because on the other countries and some here in the Philippines, the gasoline stations actually are working for 24/7 and the convenience stores or the 7-Eleven are actually working on 24/7 din. So the idea there is very strategic kasi nga the one that is going to the gasoline station can go for the convenience store and vice versa, right? So they will have more customers and at the same time, nagiging effective yung work ng isang tao because it's not just an alone business na yung naka-open for 24/7. Meron siyang katabi. Kasi 'di ba, in a very very self-explanatory sense, you cannot work very blissful on your job kung ikayo lang na company ang naka-open ang lights 24/7. Kunyari nasa palibot nyo is wala ng tao kasi tulog na. It will be saddening and in a worse sense, it is depressing for the employee. So that's why the shift work is effective depending on the uniqueness of the shift. So second factor affecting the shift work is the fixed versus rotating shifts. So they're actually fixed shifts, yung permanent working ka na. Kunyari, you are nakatoka ka for the swing shift. So permanent ka na, nandoon ka lang sa swing shift. And when we say rotating shifts, they're actually the temporary shifts. O yung nag-rotate, kunyari, for this week, ikaw ay graveyard shift. And for the next other weeks, ikaw naman ay swing shift and day shift and so on and so forth. So actually, the rationale on that, especially on the rotating shift, is that the negative effects of working swing and night shift can be lessened if each employee is allowed to work the day shift part of the time. While with the fixed shifts, even though 2/3 of all workers with the or will have the work that have not compatible with their circadian rhythms, staying permanently on the same shift will allow them to physically adjust better than if they change shifts, especially when considering that about 2 days are needed to adjust for each shift change. But research on shift rotation has strongly suggested that a fixed shifts should result in fewer performance, physical, and psychological problems than do rotating shifts. It's according to the study of Boers et al. On the year of 2002 to 1984 and 1982. So yun nga yung nasabi dito. The fixed and rotating shift, it's actually depending upon the uniqueness of the rotating shifts. Kunyari, if it's every 2 days na nag-change ka, edi naguluhan kayo, edi mas lalong nagiging unproductive yung employee. Kasi nga, it's just 2 days, nag-adjust ka lang for a day. But then, when the rotating shift happen for, let's say, every month or monthly kang paiba-iba, it's actually very good. And on the fixed schedule, ganun din kasi, you cannot say which is better among the rotating shift and the fixed shift because meron silang dalawang pros and meron din sila dalawang cons. So, on the frequency of rotation, so although fixed shifts are better for individuals than rotating shifts, sometimes shifts must be rotated because employees who feel stuck on swing and night shifts insist to having the opportunity to work days. And in such situation, the frequency of the shift rotation must be considered. Actually, in the meta-analysis, results indicate that fixed shifts result in fewer sleep problems than rotating shift, and that slowly rotating shift result in fewer sleep problems than do the faster rotating shift. It's according to Pilcher, Lambert, and Huffcut on the year 2020, their study. So if the shifts are to be rotated, the rotation should be clockwise, or the circadian technologies on their account on 2002, and with later starting time of the month or the morning shift according to Barton and Falkland of the year 1993 and not of the 1996. So yun ang yung sinasabi ko, it's the frequency of rotation. Kasi if you're going to check the account of Aamondt on the Industrial and Organizational Psychology, you will see there is a table. There is an illustration to this one. So I'm going to explain that illustration. The idea there is that kasi it depends upon the frequency of the rotation on the rotating shift. Kasi let's say, yun na nga sinasabi kong for 2 days, your body is still adjusting. So for that 2 days, masyado kang nababaliw kasi nga 2 days lang siya. Well, in fact, kung masyado siyang matagal, kanere, let's say, kanina nga, monthly, so hindi ka mahihirapan because you can adjust for a week, you can adjust, and then the following weeks, nagiging okay ka na, nagiging productive ka na, and then balik na naman. On the other idea na naman, kunyari, morning shift ka na naman. So, pag paulit-ulit na yun, you can adapt better than fixed shifts. Kasi nga, there are also, there are also employees that wants or suggest the idea of rotating shift work kasi nga gusto rin nilang mag-work on the morning so they can rest on the afternoon. Or there are some that working on the morning and resting on the afternoon na gusto nilang makaspend ng more time in their family during morning and then just work on the graveyard shift. So that's it. And also, on the last factor affecting the shift work, it's the individual differences. So it says here that it is one factor concerning the effect of shift works kasi nga, there are people who are night people and who prefers the morning. And these individuals' differences in time's preference are called chronotypes, according to the study of Greenwood on 1994. So introverts tend to be morning people more than extroverts, sabi ni Harma sa kanyang study on the year 1993. So males also adapt to work or to shift work better than do females. And that shift works affect older workers more than the younger workers, according to Oginska et al. On their study on 1993. So yun na nga, the shift work could be good for others and the shift work could be not, depending upon the individual, the demographic data, depending upon the personality of the person and the preferences of the person. So you have to take note of that one. So it really depends on that. So now we're on the last part. Yay! We're going back to the guide questions kanina, and that will be our summary. So the first question is, what has been the importance of work scheduling? Next is, what are the different types of work schedules? Third, what are the pros and cons of each? And fourth, what type of work schedule is best to be applied? So I will be answering this one since it is a recorded video and I don't know if I could pause it on the presentation. However, I'm going to tell you that what has been the importance of working schedules. Right, again, there are two main. It's not just limited to two, but delimited to two. Alright, so these are the to avoid the absenteeism of the employees and to avoid employee dissatisfaction. You have to take note of that one. So what are the different types of work schedules? Again, we have the different type of work schedules starting from the compressed work weeks, the moonlighting, the flexible work hours, yung gamit nung kanina sa flexi time, the peak time pay, job sharing, work at home, and shift works. So what are the pros and cons of each? So nasabi rin doon yung pros and cons of each. Anyway, I will be asking you din naman mamaya what are the pros and cons depending on the agreement of the class right now. Also, the same is true with what types of work schedule is best to be applied. So I will be calling random names after this video is presented. I'm going to call random names. Alright, just be ready. So that's it for today. And I think I have my references, and the reference is just one. I only base it on the module given to us, so you will not have an overload of information, or information overload rather. So that's it. Thank you for listening and goodbye.